Yo, I'm Jovan Buha, Lakers beat writer for The Athletic, and we have a free agency update. Klay Thompson has spurned the Lakers and has chosen the Dallas Mavericks. He'll be heading to Dallas on a 3-year, $50 million deal in a sign-and trade. Lakers are going to have to pivot and pivot soon. And one name I have heard from league sources is DeMar DeRozan as a potential candidate for either the Lakers non-taxpayer mid-level exception of $12.8 million, or similar to LA's options with Klay, either a sign-and trade where the Bulls would sign and trade DeRozan to the Lakers for a higher salary than $12.8 million, and then the Lakers would have to send out matching salary, or the Lakers could do a separate transaction first, do a salary dump, and then create a trade exception that they could then take DeRozan into. And this is, of course, LeBron James taking a pay cut for DeMar DeRozan to fit either with that $12.8 million or with potentially a higher salary. And according to league sources, DeMar DeRozan is one of the players that LeBron James would be willing to take a pay cut for. ESPN was first to report that. So looking at the situation, I think the next logical question is DeMar DeRozan worth it? At first glance, I am pretty skeptical of DeMar DeRozan's fit. And when looking at the $12.8 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception, DeMar DeRozan is clearly worth that. And he's worth more than that. He's easily worth at least $20 million annually, though it is worth noting that he's 34 and going to be turning 35 in August. So he is getting up there in age. But even so, DeMar is worth the money. The bigger question for me is, how does he fit with the Lakers? How does he fit with LeBron James and Anthony Davis? And I have some legitimate questions with it. I think, again, in a vacuum, DeMar DeRozan is worth the non-taxpayer MLE. DeMar DeRozan is worth $15, $18, $20 million, or even more potentially, depending on the context of the contract and the team and how he would fit in or what the team is looking for from him. But for him going to LA and being the number 3 option, like, that is an appropriate slotting of his skill set, and he could easily be a guy who averages 18 and 22 points as a number 3 option behind LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But the two biggest issues with DeMar DeRozan's fit with the Lakers are similar to the two biggest issues with Russell Westbrook's fit with the Lakers. And number one, it's that he's not a floor spacer. And number two, it's that he is a below average defender. And there's even a sub point under the shooting concern, just because DeRozan needs the ball to be effective. And the Lakers would have to get creative with using him as a cutter and a catch and shoot and spot up guy. If the Lakers are going to add another offensive weapon and another higher usage player, I think that player needs to be able to shoot threes at a high level, be able to operate off the ball at a high level. And those are not the strengths of DeMar DeRozan's game. So yes, he is a name. He's an LA native. He went to USC. He was out there with Kendrick Lamar dancing on stage, performing Not Like Us. Like, there's a homecoming element to this that would be awesome for DeMar, for Laker fans, for Angelinos. But from an actual basketball on-court fit, he's not a good three-point shooter. He's not a high-volume three-point shooter. And he would have to make some serious changes to his offensive game to fit around LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And then defensively, DeMar DeRozan is a small forward. He is no longer a shooting guard. So you're likely going to have to put him on some bigger wings. And he's not a good defender. And if you're looking at a potential lineup of Anthony Davis, LeBron James, DeMar DeRozan, Austin Reeves, and D'Angelo Russell, or even sub in Gabe Vincent for D'Angelo Russell, or say the Lakers trade D'Angelo Russell and bring in a defensive-minded guard, or even bring in another wing, you still have DeMar DeRozan out there as a weak spot defensively. You have LeBron James, who can be a weak spot in the regular season, depending on the night, depending on his energy, depending on how much of an offensive load he has to carry. So I just have some legitimate concerns of DeMar DeRozan's fit on both sides of the ball. And when I look at the types of players that the Lakers need to bring in, it needs to either be that apex all-star lead guard that they've looked at, or it needs to be a better fitting complementary player that can shoot the ball, operate off of the ball, and defend at least a league average level, but ideally an above average defender or even a good to great defender. For example, looking at a Jerami Grant versus a DeMar DeRozan, who do I think is the better player? DeMar DeRozan. Who do I think would help the Lakers more? Jerami Grant. I think Jerami Grant is better operating off the ball because he was a role player before breaking out in Detroit as like a go-to guy on a lottery team. And he's a 40% three-point shooter the last 2 seasons. He's a Still an above average defender. I think he slipped a little bit defensively, but I also think if you reduce his offensive usage, reduce his offensive role, you can empower him to be a better defender. But even just at 6'8", 6'9", he has physical tools and length and size and athleticism that DeMar DeRozan just does not have. And he's also younger than a DeMar DeRozan. And obviously acquiring a Jerami Grant is going to require sending out multiple salaries. It's going to require at least one pick, if not a couple potentially. So Jerami Grant is certainly going to cost more, but I think what the Lakers need from a role player type, if they're not getting that clear-cut third star that is just a no-brainer addition, then I think they need guys who shoot the ball well, can operate off the ball, and play defense. And DeMar DeRozan does not check those boxes at a high enough level, in my opinion. And I think, it's one thing if he's willing to come and be a sixth man and embrace a 26 to 30 minute a night roll off the bench, and the Lakers mold their rotation in a certain way where DeMar is getting lots of reps as the number 1 or number 2 option alongside LeBron or alongside AD. But as far as how those three guys fit together, I do have some concerns. I don't think it's a clean fit. And I think people are enamored with the name and him being an LA native and just playing, trade machine and fantasy basketball with it. But in terms of DeMar coming for the 12.8, LeBron taking a pay cut, or even the Lakers having to do a sign-in trade and giving something up, I'm not as sold on DeMar DeRozan's fit. And I get the appeal. He's a 20-point per game scorer. He's one of the best clutch shot makers in the game. I'm sure if he was a Laker, he would have some nights where he goes for 30 or even 40. He would have some nights where he hits a game winner or a couple. And that part of it would be fun and it would be exciting and it would be a good story. But from an actual wins and losses perspective, I don't think he is what the Lakers need. If you go back and look at the types of guys that have fit well next to LeBron James and Anthony Davis, it has been guys who shoot threes, who operate off the ball, who play defense, who play with energy, who are active, who are athletic. The Kyle Kuzmas, the KCPs, the Alex Carusos, the Austin Reeves, the Jared Vanderbilts, the Rui Hachimuras when he's active and engaged. So there's a trend with the role players that slot around LeBron and AD and what types of guys fit and what types of guys don't. And at this point, I think DeMar DeRozan is closer to being a role player than an actual star. And so we'll see. If LeBron James is pushing for DeMar DeRozan, and then that's obviously something the Lakers are going to strongly consider and potentially even do. But one final note would just be, remember, the Lakers have 15 players under contract. So if they sign DeMar DeRozan to a non-taxpayer MLE contract, they would have to trade someone to create that empty roster spot. And then in the scenario of a sign and trade, LeBron would also be taking a pay cut. It would just come down to how much money is outgoing from the Lakers versus incoming from DeRozan, and then what that difference is under the $178 million first apron, where the Lakers would be hard capped if they did a sign and trade. But that'll do it for this free agency update. Thank you so much for watching and listening. For those on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, drop a comment, and like this video if you enjoyed it. And for those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I will talk to you soon.